When Jude was born, I was 21 years old. I turned 22 not 2 weeks later. And was in a weird phase in my life, and I was wearing kilts a lot. I'm not Scottish, Irish. They weren't tartans. They were camouflage and canvas, and made by some hippie in Seattle, selling them on the internet. And I went to the hospital wearing a kilt. And I can remember the nurses looking down the hall at me when I was walking in and out. And now, it's as fitting. I'm looking ridiculous at his death. He bought me this shirt, and I hate it. I don't understand it. But he wanted me to have it. And for that reason, I love it. I also hate wearing a tie, so it was nice to not get too dressed up for this. I was a young father. Parents here can tell you that a lot of times you feel clueless. I've said to Finn several times in the last recent past that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing the best that I can, you know. We just love our kids and try and let them know that we love them. But I was still 21. I still had friends, many friends here tonight from long ago, and Pearl and I would drag Jude everywhere at all hours of the night. We had a pack and play. We would go to Stephen's house and we would put it up in a room, and we would watch a movie, and 2 a.m. would come and we would pack it up and go home, and we didn't know any better. One night we were out late at Amigos over near Old Navy, and Jude was happy to be along. He didn't care. All of my friends were very kind to him, and we were standing outside waiting to leave, and we're talking and we're loving talking to our friends, not wanting to go home, and Jude's just buck wild. He was running laps. Different friends would take turns chasing him, and he came back, and whoever was chasing him came back into the fold, and someone else went to take a turn, and Jude turned around and hit one of those big brick columns, square, right on the corner. Didn't scream. He just fell to the ground with his hands on his head. I was 24, 25, definitely had no idea of being a nurse. Picked him up, walked over, set him on the back of the car. "Let me see, son." And he pulled his hands, and blood just poured down his face. We took him to the ER to get him stitched up to Northside. That tells you when that was. And I had him in the back, and I said, "Okay." The nurse comes out and says, "We're going to play the mummy game. We're going to wrap you up in a bed sheet." He's there for it. Okay. Of course, you all know that was so they could hold him down while they put a needle in his forehead and gave him lidocaine and stitched him up. And he handled it like a champ, a trooper, and they were gone to get some paperwork, and we're unwrapping him from this sheet, and he says, "I did not like that game." He was a good brother to Finn. You guys know, you've seen photos of us. We like to ride bikes. We went to ride the Creeper Trail one Saturday, and he had mentioned that his brakes were not great, and I should have given attention to them, and I did not. I can see you laughing. It's all right. And we got started. You get a ride up to the top. We were with friends, so we had cars at the bottom and cars at the top. And we had ridden for 30 minutes, and there was traffic bowing up. All the bikes were slowing down quickly. Finn was in front of him, and Jude couldn't stop. And so he just bailed, threw himself off, and tore his knee to pieces. As someone who prides themselves on jumping into action, being ready at a moment's notice, I was frozen, helpless. I didn't know what to do. Scared to death. How far were we from our cars? There's no cell service. How far are we from a road? We can't even get off this trail. And some kind soul came, gave us some bandage. We packed it up. He was not in pain. The people we were with went riding back up the trail to get a car. And we started pushing bikes, and Jude was walking stiff leg. He was terrified to bend his knee. And he pushed his bike a mile off the trail, pushed his bike a mile down the road to a main road, and we finally got picked up. And he was fine, he wasn't in pain. He was shaken up. We didn't even stop at Sycamore Shoals on the way back. We went to Franklin Woods, and he wanted me to go get a wheelchair to wheel him in, and he loved it. He thought it was the best thing that ever happened to him. He got to ride in that wheelchair. I was horrified. I felt like that was all my fault, and it was. And he was having a good time. I couldn't believe it. He was very agreeable. It was my idea to start mountain biking to get these kids out of the house, and they never heard a complaint from them. It was my idea from my brother to start playing a tabletop miniature game, and there was no complaints. They joined in. We were playing an X-Wing fighting tabletop miniature game. I know that's the nerdiest thing you've heard all day, but I don't care. On his birthday, I got the idea. I said, well, let's go to a tournament. I'm going to find a tournament. We're going to drive there. And I couldn't find one in Knoxville. I couldn't find one in Asheville. So we drove to Charlotte. And there were 3 other people there, I believe. We brought the other half of the tournament. It was teeny tiny. We ended up, we played 3 or 4 games, but 2 of the games we played against each other. So we drove to Charlotte to do what we do on our table back home. And there's the photo that was scrolling through of Jude playing, and there's a girl standing beside him, and she was local to Charlotte, but she wanted to talk to him, and he did not know what to do. He had no clue how to engage in that at all. He was so awkward. It was great. And that's why I took that photo, because I wanted to remember it forever. But he got better, apparently, at talking to women. And he got his first girlfriend, Sal, and he was enamored. They were together a short time, but when you're 19, that's all you need. It feels like a lifetime, right? And I'm so happy to have met her, and We tried several times to get our schedule to come together and have her over for dinner. She did not want me to stop in at Chipotle and see her for the first time in her uniform. She had, at least on one occasion, I don't know, maybe more. But he finally told me, we need to talk, come outside. Okay, what's going on? And I had suspected that he had met someone, and he just kept saying, listen, Dad, she's so awesome. She's so kind, you're gonna love her. Listen, Dad. He said it 100 times. Listen, Dad. I'm like, I'm listening. What do you, just tell me what you want me to hear. But it was that he was crazy about her. And I'm so happy to have met you, Sal. Back in the early internet land grab days, when Gmail was a thing, you had to get on a lottery. You had to get on a wait list. You couldn't just go to Gmail and activate an account. And I have chased in the footsteps of all of my friends who are much more advanced technologically than me, and I jumped right on that bandwagon, and I procured Gmail addresses for my children, because that's really important, right? It's a good way to spend my time. And had Jude Farrey at gmail.com reserved before he knew what email was. And I bring that up to say that I was the backup on his email account, and I was reset his password. And several of his friends have sent photos, and you saw many of them tonight. But if you didn't get that message before the deadline for me to submit them, if you have any photos, you're welcome to send them to judeferry@gmail.com. I will get them and I will share them, and I would greatly appreciate it. These friends have been great. You guys have made the world a difference in this. Jude loved each and every one of you, and I want you to know that. It has meant the world to me that he had people around him like you men. And so I thank you very much. It has meant the world having family and friends come around me, and every time my phone dings, it's overbearing, and it's so needed. It has meant the world having you all check on me. And as much as it has meant the world, I did not want to be here. I didn't want to start the day. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to stop drinking my coffee and staring at my phone. I didn't want to take a shower. I got out of the shower. I walked around the house in my towel. Nathan was subject to that, and I didn't want to get dressed because I knew getting dressed was getting dressed for this. And my heart's broken. I grew up in the 90s listening to alternative Christian music, listening to a band called Fire and Frenzy. A Christian ska band is even more bizarre than Christian alternative music. A ska band is like if you could imagine a punk band but worse. I don't know how to say it. And I love it. I love this band so much. I still have a Fire and Frenzy hoodie. I was walking into a store in Asheville last summer, and a guy stopped me. Are you wearing a Fire and Frenzy hoodie? Yes, I am. Yeah. I went and saw them several times with my brother, with Chris Mitchell, and I just love them. I still listen to them. They broke up in 2003. In 2011, they got back together thanks to Kickstarter. You're familiar with the website where people can have their projects come together. Five Iron Frenzy had 8 members in their band, and they're all over the country now as their lives have moved on from their youth. And in order for them to get back together, they wanted $30,000 to fly and get studio time. It seemed like a lot of money to me. They hit their goal in 1 hour, and they blew their goal out of the water. They raised more money than any band on Kickstarter ever at that time, up until that point. And one of the things you could get for donating to this pledge was they had a pledge for 10 people. They would do this. You donate a certain amount and we'll write a song for you. A silly song. This is a silly band and it's on par for them. And I did not hesitate. I got out my credit card and made a healthy contribution to the cause. And they sent me a Mad Lib to fill it out, and they were going to write a silly song for me, which is already a dream come true. But I bucked it. I told them what was going on in my life. I told them about my sons. I told them I was getting a divorce. I told them about my grandfather. I told them about watching Goonies every Friday night with my grandfather and how special that was to me, and now how I do it with my kids. And I wanted them to write a song as if me and my boys were in the Goonies. And a sidebar, Molly Ringwald would be there. But you're about to hear it. And that is how we're going to end this service. And you're going to hear To Astoria. That is where the Goonies takes place. And it's about me and my boys, whom I love very much. I thank you all for coming. And you can play the song.
Well, alas, the final wave settled many in their grave. Yet here I am, just standing like a tree. I've a map and I've a spade, and there's a treasure in a cave somewhere on the coast just west of Tripoli. Jude and Finney are my pride, pouting Molly by my side. The Inferno, she's the jewel of the Farrey fleet. Push and pull and anchors weigh, o'er the 7 seas we sway, to a distant shore where the air is cool and sweet. To Astoria, to Astoria. I've a crew and I've a plan. Once we have the loot in hand, we'll point our prow toward Astoria town. Through the hills of foam and green, Jude and Finn, Molly and me, we'll have it all before the sun goes down. Jude and Finn are my pride, pouting Molly by my side. The Inferno, she's the jewel of the Farrey fleet. Push and pull anchors weigh, o'er the 7 seas we sway, to a distant shore where the air is cool and sweet. Jude and Finney are my pride, pouting Molly by my side. The Inferno, she's the jewel of the Farrey fleet. Push and pull and anchors weigh, o'er the 7 seas we sway, to a distant shore where the air is cool and sweet. To Astoria. To Astoria.
concludes the services for Jude. We'd like to thank